digest. From lane to the new shining ground, echo chants where the legends are found. Heroes carved in the heart of time, we march on through grit and grime. Oh Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Oh Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Echoes of King and Greaves in the air. Every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying your Independence Day. And of course, by that I mean all the Americans that are currently watching. No disrespect to my UK homies, but yeah, it is the 4th of July. It is Independence Day here in the wonderful United States of America. But it is your boy Steve Silver taking over again for the Dermatron for the second straight day, as Derma is recovering from what has been described as a mild heart attack. So I hope you're on the mend, Derma, and I hope you're absolutely feeling better. And the quicker you recover, the quicker you can give the people what they want, which is Dermatron at a full scale. So before we get into it, we have a very good show lined up for you today. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe buttons because we are on a march to 5K before the end of the 2025-2026 season. So for those that haven't yet subscribed, please do, because like I do on Stateside Footy, I take care of my subscribers as well too. And I know Derma does the exact same thing on this channel as well too. But it's not just about the memberships, the subscriptions. It's also all about the memberships as well too. Because the more memberships we are able to sell, the more we can be active when it comes to membership shows, fan shows, and things like that as well too. So that is the number one priority right now, is to make sure that you guys understand how important it is to subscribe and get memberships. Okay, all right. So it is the 4th of July, and so here in the United States, we do something special on the 4th of July. We like to drink a whole bunch of liquor and blow off fireworks. And today is no different, minus the liquor. But we are going to do some fireworks today because we have a really good show lined up for you. And I want to begin with some quick news and notes before we get to the chat. And this one took me by surprise. And I know it's not Tottenham related, but Chelsea Football Club have breached UEFA's football earnings and squad cost rules. They've been slapped with an £80 million fine, 20 million of which is unconditional. and it is because they they skirted the rules. And that's what Chelsea has been doing best for the last 5 years, at least, if not longer, since the PSR and the FFP rules have been in place. But I want to preface this by saying that this was not the Premier League FFP or PSR rules. This is simply UEFA's. And let's get into it really quick, because Chelsea has been punished by UEFA for failing to comply with governing bodies' football earnings and squad cost rules. The Blues have been hit with a financial penalty after breaching financial sustainability rules in the year endings of 2023-2024. Chelsea has agreed to the settlements with the first chamber of club financial control body, which will see the club be put under a microscope for 4 years. Okay. They've been slapped with an £80 million fine, 20 of which is unconditional, for breaching the football earnings rule, and will be subject to further restriction on the registration of new players on their List A for UEFA competitions such as the Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, etc. As a part of the sanction, Chelsea has agreed to reach annual targets and to the application of conditional financial and sporting measures. And if they do not remain out of the red, and if they fail to do so, it would result in stricter sanctions such as player registration and exclusion from the next UEFA competition if they qualify. Chelsea were also found to have breached the squad cost rule, having reported a ratio above 80%, and were imposed with an unconditional fine of £11 million. Chelsea did not comply with the stability requirements as set out by UEFA's club licensing and financial sustainability regulations. Proceedings were first opened against the Blues in September of 2024, and the CFCB placed particular attention on transactions involving sale of tangible and intangible assets, the exchange of players, and transfers related to between related parties, requiring specific adjustments to the financial result. Essentially, what this is that because they have a backdoor agreement with the Saudi Pro League, so essentially when Chelsea want to buy somebody big, they have to make room financially on their roster. And so what they'll do is they'll call up their buddies in Saudi Arabia and say, "Hey, man, are you interested in this player? We need to move on from them, essentially right away." And that way they can adjust. But what it sounds like what they're doing is they're pencil whipping their own books to make losses not look really all that extravagant. But of course, UEFA wasn't playing around, and this is going to be the first domino that's going to fall when it comes to Chelsea, because as soon as UEFA does it, immediately it's going to trigger a Premier League investigation. And so this probably won't be the first or last time that we hear of Chelsea skirting the PSR FFP rules. And for those that are crying out because, Everton got hammered a few years ago, it's a little bit different because this right now is initially just a UEFA breach. But that being said, I'm actually happy this is happening, because I think a lot of people think that the FFP and PSR rules are a big joke, and extremely rich clubs can figure out a way to skirt them. But so far, I absolutely love this because I'm all about accountability. So let's go ahead real quick, and there's Derma. I hope you're feeling better, man. And I send up a little prayer for you, my guy, because I actually take heart health insanely serious, and you can't mess around with it. So I hope you're under good care of the doctors that are taking care of you, and hopefully you get back on your feet and get back in this chair as soon as possible, my guy. And Derma says happy 4th of July, and he's happy that Sonny is staying. We're going to get into that in just a second, and I want to thank you for that as well too. He also became a YouTube member. Look at that. Derma became a member to his own channel. Love it, man. That's called initiative right there. Wayne Bonner, good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. Happy 4th of July, Steve. Hope you are enjoying it. I am. As a matter of fact, it's been very quiet. Before I came on, I was watching the Crystal Palace documentary on Amazon Prime, How Eagles Dare. about how Crystal Palace nearly got liquidated after the 2010 season when Steve Parrish and his ownership group stuck in, and the story about how they won promotion to the Premiership, and of course that ownership group has been in place the entire time, and of course they celebrated their first major trophy in club history, winning the FA Cup this last year. So I love that. For those that don't know, I'm a sucker for these type of squads, right? It's the reason why I'm a diehard Tottenham Hotspur fan, because they match my personality, but so does Crystal Palace. So, generally speaking, when Spurs aren't playing, I'm generally watching Crystal Palace. We have G Giant 68. Big up, Steve. Happy 4th of July. Thank you, my guy. I am a very patriotic American, and I certainly do not take my liberties for granted. And I'm absolutely blessed to have been able to be born in the United States. So, Erwin, hope you're well. Hi everyone. Hope you're all keeping well. That's nice of you, Erwin. Good to have you around. Paul Brown, happy 4th. Thanks, bud. Same with Archer. Same with Erwin. I love it, man. Let's see. Chelsea getting a slap on the wrist. Be interesting to see what happens with Man City. I don't necessarily think it's a slap on the wrist. They're going to be under a microscope, so there's not going to be any shenanigans or tomfoolery. And if they continue to do it, they're going to be excluded from UEFA competition if they don't see a major about face when it comes to their way of doing business. And like I said, this is just the first step because UEFA is now doing this, and they've hit them with a massive sanction. And 80 million, I understand Chelsea has money, but 80 million pounds is no slap on the wrist. But this also is going to trigger a Premiership investigation, because that's usually how it goes. If UEFA is the one that started, it automatically triggers a Premiership investigation. When will Man City get done? I'd like to know. Big up everyone in the chat. I would like to know too. And again, it's because of that Saudi money they're able to hire the best lawyers in the world. And what these lawyers specifically want to do is drag this out as long as they possibly can, because the more they can drag it out, the more that they continue to operate before they're actually going to be held accountable. And accountable they will be held. They're not going to slide on 115 charges. It's not going to happen. They're going to get hit. And I would probably assume that you're going to see a points deduction. And depending on how severe the charges that do stick, you might even see a relegation. 100%. G Giant, pick up Durna, take it steady, man. That's nice of you. Wayne Bonner, member for 27 months. Big up. How you feeling today? Durna responds, I okay. Wayne, but I will return like Earth Fighter. I am not your buds. Like Darth Vader. We have Archer. Good evening to you as well, sir. And then we have Audio Artisan, who's actually I actually like Audio, man. Audio is a pretty good dude. So let's go ahead and get into the Tottenham side of things. Okay, so we're going to start right here. And it is official. Actually, let's go ahead and pull this up. Mohammed Kudus, it is official. He will be joining Tottenham Hotspur within the next couple days. Word is that there is an agreement between both clubs, and right now, Tottenham Hotspur are negotiating with the Ghanaian international on wages, and he is set to be the first major signing under Thomas Frank, which means that what I like about this is that for those that have been paying attention to the words that come out of my mouth for the longest time, I have said that what Brendan Johnson needs is somebody through the door that is going to challenge him, because I think his development has plateaued to a large extent, where you're wondering if Brendan Johnson is going to have the drive to at least get to a position of consistency, right? those that are the best football players on the earth have figured out the one thing that makes them so valuable, which is consistency, being able to show up, being able to stay healthy, and being able to do their job correctly on a consistent basis, which is put the ball in the back of the net, or at least, play the position to the, to your best tactical abilities and understanding how the position is being played. And under Ange Postecoglou, the way that he wanted his wingers to play, which is not being an inside forward, which is hugging the touch lines, hugging the touch lines, and being able to ping balls in the box. That was not Brendan Johnson. Brendan Johnson was the type of dude, that routinely just floated to the near post. And it was a combination of Dejan Kulusevski and Pedro Porro making that overlapping pass, right? Every time that Brendan Johnson was put on a run, chances were more than 50% of the time he would usually pull up or pass back. Rarely did he take on his player 1v1, which is one of the biggest attributes that Brendan Johnson needed to be able to execute, and he routinely didn't. That's not saying that I don't like Brendan Johnson. What I'm saying is that he's still raw. He's 22, going into his age 23 season, so there's a lot of wiggle room left for him to develop. But one of the things that you have to be able to convey to a young player is that he cannot be comfortable. That is the death knell to any young player where they think they figured it out. They think that they're going to be a regular inclusion into the starting 11. And because of a lack of depth at the right wing position, Brendan Johnson played a lot. But with this signing coming in, it now means that there is another player that is projected to be the number one on the right-hand side, which means Brendan Johnson's now going to be in a position where he's going to have to earn his minutes, which is absolutely where you want him to be. You do not want him to be comfortable, right? And this signing is going to give Tottenham some flexibility because he can play across all three, can play across the attacking three, but he is a right mid to the core. A right wing to the core. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean as far as Kudus' impact to this club? That's a very great question, because as of right now, I have no idea, because we're gonna know very soon, depending on the formations of which Thomas Frank is going to run out there, right? Is it a 3-back system with a midfield 5? And are you actually going to play 2 high wingers, or are you going to play 2 wing backs? Right? That's going to be the question, right? So is it going to be like more of a 3-4-2-1, a 3-4-2-1, almost like, almost where you have, a striker up top followed by, a 10, or like a 10 and a 10/false 9 on the right side, where you possibly could, have Mohammed Kudus play that on the opposite side of somebody like James Maddison, with 2 wing backs, and then your center defensive mid. That's a very good question. But what I like about this is, especially with Mohammed Kudus, one of the best attributes is the fact that he's available a lot, right? That's the difference between good and great, your availability, because you can't be great if you're not there, right? So one of the things I like about him is Kudus does have a track record of not necessarily getting injured all the time. This is exactly what you want. Now, what this signing does mean, if we're talking about the inverse, is that it almost possibly eliminates the desire to go out there and get Xavi Simons from Red Bull Leipzig. I think Leipzig are in that. I want to say it's in the 67 million euro. Which, as far as I'm concerned, that's an actual steal for a dude like Xavi Simons. But with Kudus through the door and him being able to play multiple positions across the top 3, it almost, now I'm not going to say 100% eliminates Xavi Simons, but it, as of right now, the question is whether or not they want to actually go and get another high-paid player, or they're going to revert back to getting youth, right? And again, I think this is, this is the track record of what we've seen. Like I always thought that this summer was going to play out last summer, where you get one very good oven-baked ready player to step into the starting 11, and you're going to surround him with youth. And so far, it's been Vuskovic. It's been the reacquisition of Matisse Tell. They got Kota Takai from the J League, and now they brought Mohammed Kudus. So now I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but what I'm saying is, barring a major situation with Tottenham Hotspur, me personally, I still think that they're in on Eberechi Eze. I know the reports say they backed off, but that being said, Eberechi Eze's camp is waiting to hear from Arsenal on whether or not they're going to be a green light for Eberechi Eze, because that's going to be the linchpin. It's not that he doesn't want to go to Spurs; it's just that he really wants to go to Arsenal. And if Arsenal, for whatever reason, are failing to land Victor Gyökeres, they'll probably turn their attention to Eberechi Eze. So there's a lot in flux, and I think that's what Tottenham's waiting on as well too, because they really want Eberechi Eze along with Mohammed Kudus. And if you can get those two players in the window with like 5 or 6 youth players, that's actually a pretty solid window as far as I'm concerned. But that being said, it's about as official as it's going to get right now. They're just hammering out the personal terms, but Mohammed Kudus will be in a Tottenham shirt for the 2025-2026 season, bearing some kind of difficulty if it comes to personal terms, which I highly doubt. I would probably assume that he's probably going to be in the 80 to 125,000 pounds per week range. That seems about right. Somewhere in that Dejan Kulusevski range. The question I have for you guys is if you think that he's actually worth that. I think he played in 38 games last year, 3 goals, 2 assists. So, I mean, as far as the full contributions, it really wasn't there for West Ham. But that being said, it was the adjustment from Julian Lopetegui to Harry Potter that I'm sure played a role into it, because now you're going from one style of play to a completely different style of play, and there's an adjustment period, and it is what it is. All right. Turning to the other piece of news, which I think is important. Well, before we go down there, let's look at Archer here. He says, according to a source mentioned on WATTV, West Ham have slapped a Tottenham tax on Kudus. And I was saying this yesterday, that Tottenham have to be in a position to walk away from the negotiating table. If they're not going to be able to get a reasonable deal on Kudus. Kudus is not a 60 million plus add-ons type of player, especially when you look at his net worth, his market value, which is 35 to 40 million. And I actually thought, the 50 million asking price was actually spot on. Maybe you add some add-ons or whatever the case may be, but I actually thought that was actually the right price. And West Ham was trying to squeeze. And the biggest issue with West Ham is there's no leverage. They don't have the leverage here because there are not multiple teams bidding on Kudus. Tottenham was the only team. And, I know that we heard reports of Chelsea, but really Chelsea have no reason to get Mohammed Kudus. And that's the thing. It's the difference of coming to Spurs and starting, or going to Chelsea and sitting on the bench and not necessarily even playing, right? The only reason why they would do it is to block Spurs from getting them. But, Chelsea have other problems at the moment right now. So, West Ham is not in a position where they can try to squeeze money out of Tottenham, right? So Tottenham have to be able to step away from the negotiation to at least instill some type of fear that they'd be willing to walk away. Essentially being in a position, negotiating a position of desperation, which is not something that Tottenham can do, right? West Ham certainly can, because West Ham's business this summer is to remove high-spending players off their roster because they want to rebuild. And that seems appropriate for West Ham because they spent some money. It didn't work with Lopetegui, and now they want to give Harry Potter at least 3 years, rebuild this team to the style of play in which he wants to play. And so, unfortunately, they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell below market value. Totally understand, but they also can't demand exorbitant amounts for a player that only had 5 goal contributions last season. It just doesn't work that way. So I'll be interesting to see exactly what the official number is. Let's see, Irwin. He is a player that Frank wanted, or Levy. Did Frank give Levy a list of players he would like to bring in? From what I'm hearing, yeah, this was the fallback to Brian and Mbemo, right? Frank obviously wanted Mbemo. He couldn't convince Mbemo to take Tottenham's money, and so this was number 2 on Frank's list. It's somebody that plays, that has the attributes that can play in the style in which he wants to play. And that's only going to be a positive for us Spurs. The question is can somebody like Brendan Johnson adapt? We're going to find out very quickly. But yes, I would say that Mohammed Kudus is definitely somebody that Thomas Frank wanted. Archer says that or 3-4-1-2 with Johnson playing off the left of Solanke. Here's going to be the interesting. I don't necessarily think that Brendan Johnson's going to be a starter. I could be wrong. Depending on what they do at the 10 position, if they bring in another 10 to play next to James Madison, or if they go more of an 8, like a 10-8-6 with a box to box. And of course they do have Lucas Bergvall, who I think you and I both agree that is good enough to play at this level. And also you saw the upside last year to the point where he became so undroppable at times where it warranted a contract extension. So yeah, it's going to be interesting though. I don't think Johnson's going to be starting, but that's just me. Let's see, 20 mil at most for what? Mohammed Kudus. I think that's undervaluing him a little bit, but okay. Then we have Anthony Lynch, who says, good evening. Any updates on Eze? Yes. And again, it's still in limbo because Eberechi Eze and his camp are waiting to hear if it's going to be a green light for Arsenal. And I know that, there were reports that said he would stay at, Crystal Palace for another season. But that being said, the only thing he can do is say no to Tottenham. But that being said, if Tottenham trigger the release clause, and are willing to pay him what he reflects that he's worth, it's going to be awfully hard turning down that money to come down to N17. Gerard O'Connor says offer 15 and go no more than 20. They ain't got to pause the piss. And again, I think that's undervaluing Mohammed Kudus by a lot. His market value is 35 to 40, and I thought the 50 million. The Spurs offered was right on the money, to be honest with you. Kudus played in multiple different positions last season under 2 different managers. It would explain his 4GA. He was better first West Ham season and at Ajax. Yeah, I actually think he's a good player. I don't think that he's a liability whatsoever. But I think there's something to be said of trying to play a full season of football where you have a manager that was out of his depth at Julian Lopetegui, and there were reports coming out of West Ham's dressing room that they had no idea what Lopetegui wanted him from. So there was a lot of disjointed football, and eventually led him to a sack. But then you have Graham Potter, who's coming in, and it takes time. It takes time for players to understand exactly what a manager wants. Madison behind Solanke and Johnson. Again, I just don't think Brendan Johnson's going to start. It's going to be interesting though, because I actually think right now at midfield 3 of Madison, Bergvall, and Betancourt is probably going to be your starting 3 with Papsar, Archie Gray, underneath them. And I think we're going to see another midfielder come through the door someday. So, any links to a number 6? Love the show. Yes, we're getting to that in just 1 second. Let's see. G Giant, have you seen reports that Spurs inquired about Genoa's defender Coney de Winter? I have, and I don't know if there's any legs necessarily with that, but it's probably in flux. There's a lot of rumors right now. Let's see. Johnson on the right, Kudus in the 10 role, Kulu on the left. Well, Kulu is always going to play on the right because he's a right-footed player. But that being said, it depends, right? So, Derma, it depends on if Frank wants to play with 2 high 10s below Solanke. But that being said, right? So in a 5, in a 3-5-2, you're going to have 2 10s, a 6, and then you're going to have to determine, are you going to be playing with wing backs, right? So it's going to be Udogie and Porro, right? Which would make up that midfield 5. 2 high attacking wing backs. The question really is Destiny Udogie very really suited for a wing back position? I think we can all agree that Pedro Porro most definitely is probably the best right foot on the team. The question is Destiny Udogie at that level where he's going to be able to facilitate that role? I think he can, but I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree. But that being said, if they don't, I can see a midfield 3 of Johnson, Kulusevski, and Betancourt when Kulusevski gets cleared to train. Johnson really isn't a winger. I agree. Derma says, or Kudus on the right, Johnson in the 10 role, Kulu on the left because Kulu does turn to his left. It's going to be interesting to see what Thomas Frank does with Kulusevski. That's going to be the interesting one. And then if this leaves, I'd like to see us bring in Hayden Hackman. Speaking, and let's see, Kulu is the most left-footed player I've ever seen. I think he plays that right-sided 10 pretty well. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this one right here. Yves Bissouma is going to be out the door. So yes, he played well the latter 3 games of the Europa League, and he finally showed up when they absolutely needed him to. Okay, great. But that being said, we have a history of not only injury, we also have a history of irresponsibility. The whole balloon thing, the whole ski trip thing. He essentially what he did to the coaching staff was essentially tell them straight up that you're not necessarily motivated to play football, right? So one of the things that a football player has to convey to the coaching staff is that he actually gives a shit about playing football, and that football is a priority. And I don't think that I don't think his actions actually came across all that well. As a matter of fact, I heard multiple times that he rubbed the coaching staff the wrong way. And I just think at this point, if you're able to get anywhere between 20 to 25 million for Yves Bissouma, that's perfect. Because at this stage, we do need another 6 in the door. That has been a priority for at least 2 seasons now. And I think now is the time to address that position. They had an opportunity to get Johnny Cardoso. And from what I was heard, that Tottenham did not activate the clause in which they could have gotten Johnny Cardoso. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they saw a lot of Johnny Cardoso playing for the U.S. internationally. It didn't work well for Cardoso in a U.S. shirt, although he played extremely well for Real Betis last season. And the interesting thing is, what Tottenham saw was that somebody that they felt was inconsistent and maybe is not necessarily ready. And because of that, Atletico Madrid stepped in and looks like Cardoso's going to Atletico. Okay, fine. But what I'm hearing right now is that Bissouma is going to likely be replaced by Sevilla's Lucien Agume. Agume is a 23-year-old, very good on the ball. And he's also very good in isolation. What I'm saying by that is he doesn't necessarily need help to play the position. He's actually very good when it comes to lateral movement, defending specific boxes, and you can actually leave him 1v1 against attackers. Now, granted, he's doing it in La Liga, and so the natural question is whether or not he can adjust to the Premier League. Well, you're never going to know it unless you find out. The good news about this is that it is believed that Tottenham can get him for £20 million, which is actually a steal for a guy who I believe can play at the international level. I saw Sevilla a few times last year, and he's actually very good. And against Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Athletic Club Bilbao, he was actually very good against the top teams in Spain. And the fact that he doesn't have a market is actually very good for Tottenham Hotspur, because you can get him for 20 mil, you can get him signed for 5 years, and you can get him in that group of sixes. Betancourt, Archie Gray, and Agume, and now all of a sudden you have a deep bench at the six. And me personally, it's like if you want to bring him in and ease him in, or if he comes in and it looks like he's able to handle it, it makes sense. And this is what I actually like this as well too, because this is like, something that I've always wanted for Spurs, being able to uncover hidden gems, right? It's like, I want what I want is like everybody else, like, that'd be cool to go out and get a big name, but off the radar moves where it's like, oh, I didn't even know we were looking at that guy, and he comes in and he does a fantastic job. Like, for me, Agume is pretty good. Let me pull this up real quick. You're right. So last year, this was currently right now he's playing for France's U21s internationally. Let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. So he played for Sevilla. And it looks like career-wise, he's had 47 matches, 1 goal, 3 assists, and about 2,894 minutes for Sevilla. Currently, he is with French U21s, and let's see. And of course, Archer says he's got 13 caps. Yeah, I like French players. Just saying. Let's see. And Gerard O'Connor says Kubu won't be back until January. Okay, I've heard November, but and he says that Gerard O'Connor. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Let's see. Who can we mug with this, and how much can we get from? Well, I think right now his market value is somewhere between 20 and 25 million pounds, right? So, but the problem with it is it's going to be a tough sell to get 25 for him. I still think there are going to be multiple teams in the Premier League that would take a shot on them. Somebody like Crystal Palace, maybe a Fulham, Bournemouth. But that being said, if we can get 20 for him, that's perfect. That's perfect, right? You're still getting something close to market value for him. But that being said, I would be okay if we swapped Basuma for a Goumet. Would Celtic take him? Are you talking about Basuma? If they're willing to pay. Is Scarlett getting the bullet? I don't know. The question is if you believe that Dane Scarlett is capable of being consistent at the Premier League level, right? The problem with this is I don't want this to be a thing where he's getting early cup matches and then sitting the rest of the season. I don't think that does anything for Dane Scarlett. That being said, if Dane Scarlett puts the ball in the back of the net in those matches, that definitely changes the equation. But I can't see a situation where Dane Scarlett's going to be on this roster this season. I would assume he's either going out on loan or they're going to find find a move for him. That's what I've been told. All right. So lastly, now that we've gone through this, I want to talk a little bit about Son Heung-min, the captain. Now, it was widely believed that Tottenham were looking for a move away from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with Son. And if the price was right, then they would make the move. And I've heard that there were a couple Saudi teams that were in the mix. I even saw a report that there was a Saudi team willing to pay upwards of £60 million for Sonny, which is something that Tottenham should just do regardless, because that's that is exorbitant amount of money for the 32-year-old who's coming off an injury-plagued season in a down year. But most, I would assume that most were kind of around that 35 to 40 million pound deal, and it was just something that I don't think Sonny looked. I'm sure he looked around at the teams that were potentially interested, and he thought that being with Spurs for another season, also to the fact that this is a World Cup year, and he's coming into his age 33 season. And he was able to come back at the end of the year, which means that he was at least match fit to get in some of those games at the end of the year. But this summer he has, this summer is all about recuperating, getting himself in the best possible position for this upcoming season. The interesting thing though is where he fits. And this is the thing that this is one of the biggest reasons why I don't think Brennan Johnson's going to be a starter, is because I would just assume that if Solanke's starting up top, I would assume that that false nine role above James Maddison will probably go to Son. Not necessarily a poacher striker, target nine type of player, but more of a false nine inside forward where you can get Sonny moving between the channels, getting him on the run and letting him just crash the far post like he's done over the large part of his career, and playing him in a role where it's not necessarily you don't need him to run a lot. Just have design a formation that's going to allow him to do what he does best, and that's the biggest reason why I think that Sonny's probably going to, if they're going with a too high striker type of system, that second one is probably that false nine hybrid 10 position right there is probably on the left hand side. It's probably going to go to Sonny. The other thing that it's worth mentioning though is the fact that this is a World Cup year. And I do believe that he has a desire, to be a part of that South Korean team. I think that they're either damn near qualified or close. They've either qualified or they're really close to qualifying. And so playing at Tottenham this year, playing in the Champions League, and playing under a new system that might actually be able to, slow down the wear and tear, if you will, right? I think that, almost in the same vein as what Arne Slot did with Mo Salah at Liverpool. And if you guys were paying attention last year to Liverpool, Mo Salah was not making 30-yard sprints on through balls. They were able to utilize Mo Salah, get him in space, and let him do the job that he does pretty well. And I think that's probably going to be the way that Thomas Frank is going to try to use Sonny and not overwork him. And that would probably mean that there's going to be some rotation with Sonny as well, too, where it's going to be like early cup matches or, maybe they'll rotate the Premier League and use Sonny in certain, Champions League games, things like that. But, for me, I always said the one thing that I didn't want was Sonny to be a parody of himself, right? age 32 season last year. Me personally, I thought he was playing injured for the bulk of the season. Outside of the first 10 games where he actually looked like he was at his best, from that point forward, he looked like he was absolutely drowning on that pitch last year. And one thing I don't want to see is, Sonny being relegated to a position where he's like coming off the bench, getting 20 minutes at the end of the match. I just, even in that scenario, I don't think it's good, not only for him, but I also don't think it's good for his aspirations. And that's the biggest reason why I wouldn't have had a problem if Spurs decided to let him go. For me, though, I can envision a scenario where, Sonny bounces back with a 10 to 15 goal season this upcoming season. And I would probably assume that Thomas Frank is, again, is going to utilize him where the wear and tear is going to be minimal. So they're not going to ask him to, make runs like he was doing under Pochettino. I can't envision a scenario like that, or just the amount of responsibility that Sonny had to play on that left-hand side under Postecoglou, where he was not only asked to press high on that left side, but then in transition on the counterattack, then from the midway line, and then making those runs up. I just don't think that was necessarily beneficial as Sonny is coming down to the end of his career. I think that the way that Arne Slot used Mo Salah is probably going to be what is going to be required if you actually want to keep Sonny on the pitch for 60 minutes or making multiple starts. You have to be able to minimize that wear and tear. Let's see. Scarlett couldn't even do much at Oxford yet. You're absolutely right. And that's not, I don't necessarily think that Scarlett is not good enough for that league. I just think that, he's got to be in a system that plays to his strengths. The interesting thing is going to be what type of impression he gives Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank has already mentioned, Mikey Moore and some of these younger players. And so he's looking forward to it. Like, this is a good opportunity for, especially in those first couple games, for Dane Scarlett to do something that's going to grab his attention. That is going to dictate what's going to happen with Scarlett. I don't think he's going to be on the roster, but I could be wrong. Do you think Sonny retires after one more season with Spurs? Interesting question. So it depends, right? Because I've been hearing that there's a possibility that Harry Kane returns to Spurs. And his release clause is affordable. And if it's not this summer, then in January, when that release clause dips below 50 million pounds, to get Harry Kane back would be interesting, because you get him for the final 6 months of the season and probably one more season before he retires. And could I envision a scenario that Harry Kane and Son Heung-min retire at the same time? Just putting it out there. I'm putting it out there. Let's see. Archer. Sonny isn't really up to more than 30 minutes now. More of a moments player. And that's the thing that bugs me too, because I happen to agree with you. And again, I don't want to see him being a parody of himself or a character of himself. Yes, he can, he does have it to be like one of those impact first guy off the bench type of subs. But that being said, will he accept that role? Will he accept it? Or does Thomas Frank have a plan in place where he can minimize the wear and tear? Because if you can do that, you might be able to get a good 60 minutes out of him before you have to bring him off the pitch. Let's see. Is it time to sell our weak keeper, Vicario? Vicario's not going. And he's not weak. He's a very good sweeper keeper. And considering that he has two of the best center backs playing in front of him, I can't imagine a scenario where Vicario goes. Frank will organize our defense much better than Ange. Vicario's flopping is concerning, though. See, here's the thing, though, right? In the first half, like last season, the season before, 2023, 2024, there were moments where Vicario wasn't necessarily aggressive on set pieces, right? So he stayed on his goal line, and he became reactive instead of proactive. And what ends up happening is he ends up looking like a Flappy Bird. I understand the flapping comment, right? But that being said, one of the things that I saw when he came back from injury, he was far more proactive when it came to set pieces, and he looked like he was absolutely tough. Did he make mistakes? Sure, but that being said, in my opinion, he got drastically better when he came back from the injury, and I wonder if that had a lot to do with the goalkeeping coach, the coaching for goalkeeping. But that being said, he looked far more confident when he came back, to a point where, as soon as he came back, even when he wasn't at 100%, they put him right back into the starting 11. And that's no disrespect to Kinski, but Kinski's got a lot of work to do before he's going to retain his starting position, or whether or not he takes back the starting position. Let's see. Will he keep Dragusin? I hope not. I hope not. The thing about it is I don't think Radu Dragusin is good enough to compete at the Premier League level. Now, the one thing that he's got going for him is the fact that if Thomas Frank plays a 3-back system, he can play on the right side. If you guys remember, Radu Dragusin was developed in a 3-back system playing on the right side. So from that standpoint, the knowledge of playing in that system, but also understanding your positioning, I think it suits him a little bit better than what Ange Postecoglou was asking him to do, which is play that stopper role. Playing in that high line, I just don't think he was comfortable in it. Now, the question is whether or not he can adapt. I just don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. And that's okay, because there's a lot of players that have come and gone that tried to prove themselves at this level and just couldn't do it. And I think there were prime examples last season in the early stages of the Europa League. Dude, he just looked terrible. It just is what it is. I think and I think there's large enough sample size to kind of back that up. There's a reason why Kevin Danso, when Danso came in, and I understand, Drago got hurt, but Kevin Danso came in and he looked far and away better. And the interesting thing is, are they going to target another center back for that starting right side, or is that going to go to Kevin Danso? I would probably assume that's going to go to Danso in a 3-back system. Let's see. I don't see Kinski replacing Vicario 100%. Vicario's an Italian international. And, for me, when I look at Vicario, and let me pull this up real quick. He's 28 years old. And he's right now in that prime. Like, Guillermo Vicario is now getting into what I consider the goalkeeper prime. And what that means is, like, for me, it's like the goalkeeper prime is 28 to 32. That's where you're going to get the best years from a top echelon keeper. Not to say that before that they're not good. It's just, it takes a while. It takes a while to get used to the position. Not only that, but also gain consistency. And I know there was a comment earlier about the Flappy Bird or whatever, but again, last season when he came back, I thought he was much better than we've ever seen him. He was far more confident on set pieces. He was willing to come out and to take risks. And there were a few times where he made those risks and it paid off. But also, tell me, especially against Frankfurt, against Bodo and against Manchester United in the final, Vicario was rock solid. He was probably one of the better keepers of that tournament. 100%. Gerard O'Connor, do you see Gray getting much Premier? 100? Yeah, I do actually. I think Archie Gray is going to play a pivotal role. Same thing with Lucas Bergvall. Right now, the plan for Archie Gray is to challenge for a starting spot this preseason. Archie Gray didn't necessarily vacation this offseason. I'm sure he took some time, but from what I was told, that Archie Gray, as soon as the season ended, 2 weeks later, he was at Hotspur away, and he was working out. He was training. Archie Gray has to get a little bit bigger to play the 6. He also has to improve his speed a little bit. But that being said, you can see that the technical ability is there to play, defensive mid. But the good part about Archie Gray is he can play right back and he can play center back. So there's, he's got multiple positions that he can facilitate. The one thing that I don't want to see is him continue to be that player. For his development, he has to be on one position and stick with that position and develop in that position. And his best position is at defensive mid. And I do think that we're going to see him not only in cup matches, in the Champions League, but also in the Premier League as well too. I think he's going, like, if I had to guess, I think he's going to get close to that 1,500 minutes next season, which would reflect a substantial amount of playing time. Same thing with Bergvall. I think Bergvall is going to play a lot of minutes this upcoming year, and I think Baptiste Tell is going to play some minutes. I would be shocked if Wilson Odegaard didn't get some minutes as well too. There's going to be a lot of minutes for you. Same thing with Mikey Moore. Now the question will be, is Will Lancashire going to be a part of that conversation? I think he's going to go on loan. I think Yang Min Huck is going to go out on loan again as well too. I think there's multiple candidates that are going to be out on loan this season. But I will say that I do fully expect Valise to get sold. Manor Solomon's going to get sold, and I think Brian Hill is going to get sold. So, there's going to be some turnover when it comes to fringe first team players. But I think Archie Ray is going to be comfortable in this first team. Archer, we definitely need a DM the most. If we score around the same amount of goals but concede 15 to 20 less, that would be a reason. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be interesting to see. Now, here's the weird part, right? Because I actually kind of believe that Betancourt is a better 8 than he is a 6, but I don't think he's a terrible 6. And I think that when he was at his best last season, it was undeniable. As the Europa League progressed, he was kind of playing in that box to box, deep line playmaking 8 with Basuma playing the 6. And I thought that Betancourt played beautifully. But when he was at the 6, he also played pretty well. Don't get me wrong, there were times, and especially during the injury crisis where he was left on an island and there wasn't a lot that he can do. I always thought Betancourt is the type of player where if there's good players around him doing their jobs, where you're not leaving the bulk of the responsibility on his shoulders, that's when he plays the best. Do I think he's a captain? No. But I clearly think that he's a player that can help you win trophies. And I do believe that because he can play both positions, I don't think we're necessarily going to be hurting. But I do want another 6 through the door to challenge him for that position, but also give some depth to that position. So if anything should happen, Archie Ray is not going to be left on that island as well too. All right. I think that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank Archer, Gerard O'Connor, G Giant 68, Noah Mapanga. Let's see who else today. Derma. It's good to always have you in the chat today. Anthony Lynch. Let's see. Irwin was in the chat today as well too. Wayne Bonner, of course. I want to thank all you guys. And Paul Brown as well too. I can't forget Paul Brown. I want to thank all you guys that participated today in the chat. Make sure you hit the subscribe buttons. because again, we are in a race to 5,000 here on THFC TWD. And the quicker that we can get to those 5K subs, the more proactive we can be as a channel as well too. Doing very cool shows like fan shows, and also having very good guests on these shows as well too. When it comes to membership shows, so there's lots of benefits being a member as well too. So make sure you hit those subscriptions as well too, and make sure you hit the likes because that matters as well too. Quick note though, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, noon UK time, the American Hotspur on Stateside Footy returns as we do every Saturday morning, and we're going to be playing a game called Start, Sell, and Drop. And we're going to go through the entire Tottenham Hotspur first team, and we are going to decide whether or not we should start, whether we should sell, or whether we should drop. And I'm sure we're going to get into some loans as well too. So that's going to be tomorrow morning at noon. So make sure you tune in for that one. And of course, the CONCACAF Gold Cup final is Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, midnight UK time, as the U.S. men's national team take on Mexico in the final. And for all those that are wondering, yes, U.S.-Mexico is the greatest international rivalry in international football. The amount of hatred both teams have for each other makes for drama, and it makes for the type of football where it gets rough and it gets chippy and trash talk galore. So that's going to be Sunday night at 7, midnight UK time. So definitely a lot of good things going on in Stateside Footy. Make sure you head over there and also hit the subscribe button as well, because I'm in a race to 1,000 subs. Once we get to that point, obviously, man, every milestone we hit, man, I take care of all my subscribers. I'm genuinely grateful. But that being said, I'm also going to be doing jersey giveaways for every single milestone we hit, and that's just what I like to do, man. So that's going to be on Stateside Footy, and I hopefully I'll see all you guys there tomorrow morning at 7 noon Eastern, noon UK time for the American Hotspur. Until then, I hope you guys enjoy your Friday afternoon. I know for a fact I will, because it is the 4th. So take care, guys. Enjoy your afternoon.
Some lanes are far and wide, with the pride of the fight on this journey.